Alright guys, welcome to the last data mine video of 2024. Today we will be going over the newest German event. It will be bringing us 2 new URs. The event name is, checks notes, Substellar Crepuscule. So, mouthful aside, let's get into it because we got a lot to cover today. Before we get into the new stuff coming out today, I want to quickly go over last week's Call to Arms update. In addition to Harbin's Blueprint catch-up, we also got a mini-event, Return from the Beyond. If you've been playing diligently, then yesterday was the first day that you'd be eligible to have the new item, Precious Handkerchief. It's a purple HP item that says when equipped by a particular character, 20 seconds after the battle starts, deploy a barrier for 20 seconds around a random ship in your vanguard, and it can negate up to 2% damage. This item's not worth it. The Sayadin support towel is better, and that's before considering that a particular character is Memphis. Trash ship, trash item. Next up, I'll briefly talk about the 5 newest augment modules added to the game. Yubari's allows her to deploy even more in-development devices that are very much RNG based. Bogue gives her an on-launch barrage. St. Louis's module is actually having her lean into damage now. In addition to her firepower and hit stat buffs, her upgraded skill buffs her crit rate, her main gun efficiency, and her damage to light and medium armor enemies. This one's actually pretty good. St. Louis is not the only PR1 ship with a new augment module here. Rune is the other one. Her augment module completely reworks her expert loader skill. She gets a barrage that increases the damage she can deal to targets hit by the barrage, and she's able to get a bunch of stat stacks on her firing the main gun. Over 40% buff to firepower and reload at max capacity. So I guess Rune is going to be getting the fast guns now. The final augment module goes to Hosho. Kind of funny because I just talked about her in a video I recently made and will be available to you guys very shortly. This basically gives her an on-launch heal. This is awesome for the type of ship she is, given that she is brought for experiencing up low-level ships. Now you have your experience gain and your healer built into one ship in your slot, so you can use 5 other ships you want to level up. Sorry, Rune fans, I think this might be my favorite one of the batch. Okay, the last thing of note to catch us up is Taihou META, and this certainly didn't come without controversy. She was drawn by popular artist Dishwasher, and there was a lot of negative feedback online about how similar the old fan art he did of her is to the new official art. And just after this, Dish announced that he would quit doing official art for Azur Lane. So with that out of the way, let's talk about Taihou META as a ship. She gets some significant increases to her stats over her base version. She also has a skill that buffs her aviation and reload by 10%, and then she can also go up to 22% aviation buff with a couple stacks of airstrikes. She has a special airstrike that happens on launch. She also summons a shadow spirit, and she has a special barrage every 10 seconds that inflicts special burn and debuffs the enemy. For a meta ship, she's actually got a lot going here for her. For an SR, her damage output looks solid. She doesn't have any skills that lead me to believe she won't be power crept by future meta ships, but as of right now, she's one of the better meta ships for the backline. Alright, the last little bit of housekeeping that we have to do is not looking in the past, but looking to the future. This week, I covered the Japanese live stream, but I didn't do a recap. So here are some additional things that they announced during that stream. Azur Lane Volume 2 will be coming to Weiss Schwarz on January 17th. The Yorktown 2 event will be the next UR event they will rerun. They will be adding a new siren to Project Identity. You'll soon be able to play with Oshina. And lastly, 3D Noshiro will be added to private quarters. Alright, with that, let's get to today's update. I know you guys are all very excited. There was even a billboard for this event in Akihabara. So this event looks like it's going to bring us a lot of new lore. We are introduced to a new human character, Madam M, and we get a new Arbiter, the Moon. As typical with events, we get a new dorm set as well as gear skins. And man, did we get a lot of skins for this event. A ton of dynamic animations and L2Ds. So much so that they will be released in 2 waves. The first wave will be today, and then they'll have a second one in a week. There will be no new equipment today. However, the 533mm improved quadruple magnetic torpedo mount will be available in the shop. And not only will the shop have the new meta ship, but also the UR voucher for the second UR. So there's going to be a lot of event points you're going to have to grind, and this event will only last 2 weeks, not 3 weeks like the last UR event. Alright, without further ado, let's get into covering these new ships. First up, we will start with the Banner UR. She will be available on Pity. The UR KMS Carrier Fritz Fritz Rumey. So stat-wise, she looks interesting. I know on live stream a bunch of you were wondering if she was going to be an aviation battleship. She's not. However, she does have a firepower stat. Her aviation stat is very high. It's right in between Yorktown 2 and Amagi CV. That's good company to keep. And she has the highest reload stat of any UR carrier in the game, so very excited there. Her equipment loadout looks very interesting too. She only has 2 plane slots. That's not very typical of a carrier. Maybe a light carrier, but that's odd. Luckily, she has 4 planes in each slot, so she has 8 planes total. Most URs have 9 planes. Amagi CV is the exception. Fritz Rumey, I guess, will now be the second exception. So only 8 planes. That's interesting. Note that she can equip full fighters. She has a fighter slot and a flex slot. So this means that she will be able to have 8 fighter planes launching. That's great if you need rockets like the LA-9. This is going to be really good against medium armor, I can already tell, without even getting into the skills. Also, in return for giving up her 3rd plane slot, she can equip a light cruiser gun or an anti-air gun. I suppose that goes with her firepower stat. So anyway, her stats look very good in general. I'm a little bit concerned about 8 planes instead of 9. However, Amagi CV showed that you can get by with 8 planes if you have really good skills. Skill number 1, when she launches an airstrike, 100% chance to trigger a special barrage. Enemies hit by this barrage are slowed by 30% for 6 seconds if the enemy is affected by gravitational pull. So this is something like Bismarck II's skill. The slow effect is increased to 60%. So she has a guaranteed slow, and the barrage looks very nice. It hits most of the board, so it's going to be really easy to slow things. It pairs very nicely with Bismarck II. And of course, the second part of this skill is if it's afloat, when another fleet enters the battle, she gets a special cross-fleet barrage 16 seconds after the start of the battle. So that's pretty standard with URs. They get a cross-fleet, so she gets that. All right, skill number 2. When she's equipped with a light cruiser gun, the gun's firing range is increased to 105. That's pretty good. A standard CL gun is like 70, so she'll have plenty of range to hit things. Also, its shells ignore shields. Perfect. She doesn't have to worry about shields. Also, as part of this skill, she's equipped with a special heavy cruiser ghost gun. This gun is kind of busted. If you guys were wanting a firepower-based carrier, you certainly got it. She probably could have been an aviation battleship, but this is fine. Her classification as a carrier actually works in her favor. She basically just has a main gun too on the carrier. It's like you added planes to Rune. Additionally, enemies hit by this ghost gun 8 times will take 8% more damage. Keep in mind that every single fire of this ghost gun has 8 shells in it, so one single trigger of the gun can trigger this 8% damage buff. And it's across the board damage from all sources, from all ships. Amazing. Awesome. This gun just got even better. And then finally, let's just add in every 10 seconds she's going to trigger a special barrage. And why not make this barrage good too? All right, I'm only 2 skills into this ship and I'm very much liking what I see so far. And we got a 3rd skill to go through. It's very short, but plus 15% aviation and hit stat. We like that on our carriers. And then while this ship is detected, if this ship kills an enemy, it clears the detection gauge. She goes back to hidden status. That triggers a max of 3 times. All right, well, they definitely saved her worst skill for last. It's still decent. It's a buff, and the hidden carrier mechanic's interesting, whatever, but like her first 2 skills are much, much better. I do like this ship, though. I'm actually excited. I like the kit. I think it pairs pretty nicely with a lot of things going on. One thing I do have to question, though, is because Bismarck II has her cross-fleet aviation buff, but no buff to aviation stat in her fleet, this ship needs to not be in the same fleet as Bismarck. They need to be cross from each other, because this ship has a cross fleet for Bismarck, and Bismarck has a cross fleet for her. But together, there's less synergy, so you'd almost rather have them apart. Yes, there is the extra slow that happens with the suction gravity black hole thing, but technically, it might just be better to have them in separate fleets. In Operation Siren, for example, you can have an all-battleship fleet with Bismarck II being the flagship, and then having, 2 battleships that she can buff, like FDG and UVH. And then in a different fleet, you can have a full carrier fleet for OpSci, and then just have Fritz be the flagship, and they'll buff each other very nicely. Also, because of her stats, efficiencies, and plane loadout, with the LA-9, I believe she will be the best in slot damage carrier against medium armor enemies. Additionally, she has plenty of things that can make her good against light armor enemies too, so she has a lot of usages as a top tier carrier. In fact, this is a must pick up ship. I think she's amazing. New players, old players, this is a great ship. Make sure you get it. All right, we're starting off strong with the first UR. Let's move on to the second UR. She's not going to be available available in the gacha. She will be available through the voucher system. So in a way, she's a freebie. However, you will have to grind a bit to get those vouchers. All right, looking at her stats, well, she's pretty tanky. She's got a good health pool. Nothing compared to Felix, but much better than the average destroyer. Her stats look very lackluster for a UR. In fact, I would compare them to a pretty forgettable SR ship, Otto von Alvensleben. So not off to a good start, but of course we still have skills to go over, and I see 4 of them. Additionally, each of them looks like it could be a Yu-Gi-Oh card in of itself. Equipped with the special equipment Heart of the Thundering Fire. Alright, after looking into this is just flavor text. This equipment doesn't do anything, just read the skill. I don't know why they felt the need to add flavor text to this skill. There's plenty to read already. Every time this ship fires her main guns, trigger a special barrage that inflicts enemy hit with the Mark of Thundering Fire debuff. The special barrage itself doesn't look that special or do a lot of damage, but it does get these marks out quickly into a lot of different ships. When a main fleet ship that is not the flagship, so either wing position, launches an airstrike or fires a salvo, you clear the mark and inflict damage to that enemy plus 5% for 10 seconds. This is a great debuff that applies. We like this. This synergizes. It's interesting that it doesn't apply to the flagship, but I like it a lot. A lot of things going for it. Sadly, she doesn't have a main gun +1, so you're going to have to equip a very fast gun on her to get a lot of these out, but I very much like this skill. Skill number 2 gives her plus 15% firepower and torpedo stat. For every 3 Heart of the Thundering Fire stacks obtained, she gets plus 10% anti-air stat, max 5 stacks. So in total, she can get 50% boost to her anti-air stat, but this is only after applying 15 debuffs, so it isn't going to happen right away. Additionally, when she gets those 15 debuffs, she's going to get an additional special anti-air gun. Now, this anti-air gun is busted. It's really powerful, and it basically acts as an anti-air gun +1, and it's a powerful one at that. So with the 50% anti-air buff stat and the +1 ghost gun for an anti-air gun, she is going to shoot down a ton of planes, but you got to get these 5 stacks first, which means you have to hit the debuff 15 times. That's like a lot of setup to get one of the better anti-air destroyers in the game, but it's so late into the battle. I don't know how I feel about this. And then finally, we just add on to this part of the skill that if the ship is afloat, the first 5 times another fleet enters the battle, so this is a cross fleet barrage, 25 seconds after the start of the battle, she triggers a special barrage. So she has a cross fleet as well. So I believe this is the first event that has 2 ships with cross fleet barrages. Usually only the UR from the banner has it, but now the voucher one has it. Okay, this is an okay one. It's like fine, whatever. It is important though that it's a cross fleet barrage from the Vanguard slot, not the main fleet slot, so it probably will see some usage. Third skill, she gets minus 15% damage taken. Great survivability tool there, and she already has a good stack of HP, and her evasion's all right, so she gets some survivability. She'll be around. Good, good. Also, while she's afloat, the flagship takes 25% less damage. It's great. That's basically a flagship cover. It doesn't stack with those skills, but yeah, your flagship's not going to die if she's around. Also, every 6 stacks of Heart of the Thundering Fire, man, you just got to stack this all day. You can heal herself 1% every 2 times HP is restored this way. She triggers a slashing barrage. So this slashing barrage happens basically every 12 times she stacks the Heart of Thundering Fire. Furthermore, the first 3 times this slashing barrage is triggered, additionally heal 2% HP of the lowest HP ship in the fleet, not just herself. So she has a heal for the whole fleet, she has a heal for just herself, and she has the slashing barrage. So this whole fleet heal will actually happen every 36 times that she triggers the Heart of Thundering Fire. It never ends. Luckily, these bullets like re-aim. They like come out and target and re-aim, so they should basically hit everything on the screen, but you still have to trigger this a ton. But we do like the fact she has a heal for herself and for everyone else, so I kind of like this skill. I think that is a lot of triggers to get through, and like I said, we'll have to see. I think when we test her, we'll see how often those triggers are going to be effectively hitting, but it does seem like a lot to me at first glance. Her final skill is just an all-out assault. Every 10 main gun shots, she triggers one, and then every 2 times she triggers an all-out assault, she triggers an additional torpedo barrage. Those can also hit submarines if you care. If you haven't figured this out already, she is going to need the fastest gun that you want to put on her, because oh my gosh, we want to trigger that Heart of Thundering Fire a ton. We want to trigger those all-out assaults a ton. Like, just put a really fast gun on her and let her roll. All right, as the third UR voucher ship and also a destroyer, I put her right in the middle between Laffy 2, who is stupid busted, and Morgador, who is stupid stupid. She's kind of in the middle. I think she's actually pretty decent. I think she can see play. I actually really like the way they designed her kit. I think it works very nicely with itself. I think you can do a lot of things, especially in PvE. I think that there's a lot of good buffs going on at the beginning, and she has a reason to exist. KMS finally gets their second good destroyer. All right, URs are out of the way, so let's move on to the SRs. First up, we have Light Cruiser KMS Duisburg. Stat-wise, she doesn't look all that impressive. I would compare her to Magdeburg, which is a basic generic light cruiser, somewhat focused in torpedoes, but not really that much. Looking at skill number 1, at the start of the battle and every 15 seconds afterwards, she summons a level 10 Dragon drone that lasts 12 seconds. Additionally, she gets plus 20% anti-air stat and plus 10% evasion rate for those 12 seconds as well. Simple but good. We like evasion rate, we like that survivability, and we like the fact that those drones are going to draw aggro from enemies. Skill number 2 gives her plus 15% to firepower and torpedo stat, great for damage, and then every 20 seconds she triggers a special barrage. This AP barrage ignores shields. Also, when the fleet she's in is out of ammo, she's going to deal plus 15% extra damage to try and offset that out of ammo debuff. And skill number 3 is just an all-out assault every 8 shots. Wow, we went from Z52, which had all of the text, to Duisburg, which had no text. This is a very boring, basic ship, honestly. There's nothing going on here. Decent, simple, forgettable. All right, the other SR ship in this event is the heavy cruiser Admiral Hipper META. She will be available as a drop as well as in the shop. Her stats have been a fair bit improved over her base version. Let's move into skills though. Her first skill gives her plus 15% firepower. Also, when this ship's main guns hit the same enemy 4 times, okay, that's quite a bit, especially since she's firing just a single heavy cruiser gun, inflict them with Binding Flames debuff every 20 seconds. All enemies that have been inflicted by this debuff are slowed by 30%, lose 5% of their evasion stat for 4 seconds, and then they have the status removed. Okay, this isn't that good because she's a torpedo heavy cruiser, one of the worst classes of ships you can be, and so she's firing a heavy cruiser gun one at a time, so 4 triggers of this is going to be slow. Basically, it's every 20 seconds you're going to get this very minuscule buff, but it is technically a slow, so we'll give it that, but not a very good one. Skill number 2, at the start of the battle and every 20 seconds afterwards, she's going to generate 2 shields for 15 seconds. Each shield can block up to 6 shells. While the shields are up, she's going to get a 6% boost to her evasion rate and plus 15% damage. When both shields are broken by shells, so they don't time out, but they actually take the 6 shells, she's going to trigger a special barrage. And while the barrage does have torpedoes, it's not all that great. Moving on to skill number 3, plus 15% torpedo stat. Okay, I like how they just like put the firepower stat on skill 1 and the torpedo stat on skill 3. Like in a lot of other ships, they put the 2 stats together, but anyway, doesn't matter. When this ship is in the frontmost position of the Vanguard, every instance of damage taken has a 25% chance to reduce the actual damage received by 50%. So every shot has a 1 in 4 chance of being cut in half in damage. Okay, that's actually not too bad. That will be kind of annoying. It's a pretty decent Yukikaze-like skill. If she's not the frontmost position, she's going to generate 2 rotating shields for the leading ship that last until the end of the battle, and the shields can block 10 shells each. So that's actually some good shields. So she's either going to give shields if she's the off tank, or if she's the main tank, she's going to get a lot of damage reduction. I do kind of like this skill. Okay. Also, she has an all-out assault that happens every 6 main gun shots, and enemies hit by this are going to be inflicted by the Binding Flames debuff. So this is going to be really good in helping get skill number 1 to trigger. So now you don't have to be reliant on like the every 4. Now you have every 4 and every 6. So it'll be a lot easier to trigger skill number 1. And then she's going to have her obligatory Operation Siren buff for meta ships. So there's a lot going on here. I don't hate it. I do see kind of the inspiration they took from Admiral Hipper. She's leagues better than Admiral Hipper. So if you are an Admiral Hipper fan, you got a much better upgrade here. Not sure she's going to see a lot of play anyway. She's a torpedo heavy cruiser that didn't blow my mind away. Still an SR too. So like, it's for the fans. I think the kit is interesting. I like the way they designed it, but it's not particularly a good ship. All right, let's move on to the elites. Hopefully we'll cruise through these. First up, Elite Destroyer KMS Z11. Her stats look like an Elite Destroyer, which is not a compliment. Skill number 1, every 20 seconds after the battle starts, generate 2 rotating shields for 8 seconds. Each shield can block up to 6 shells each. I wish there was one at the start of the battle, but oh well. Also, if there are any other KMS ships in the Vanguard fleet elite. All Vanguard fleet ships get plus 10% firepower and torpedo stat. So that's interesting because she buffs all of the ships. So you literally compare her with like one other KMS ship and you can buff the other one, whatever it is. So interesting, but it's only Vanguard, so it's not like you can put Bismarck 2 in the back line. I don't know what I'm talking about. This is an elite ship. It's not that good. Skill number 2. When she fires her torpedoes, 50% chance to fire a second round of torpedoes. If this effect fails, deploy a sea mine. So basically, when she fires her torp, she's either going to fire a second one or deploy a sea mine. Flip a coin. And she ends off with an all-out assault every 10 main gun fires. All right, yeah, this ship's bad. Next. Final ship of the day is the accumulation reward, the Elite Destroyer Z9. Elite Destroyer, bad stats, yada yada, moving on to skills. At the start of the battle and every 15 seconds thereafter, lay mines across the battlefield. When the ship fires torpedoes, 30% chance to fire an additional second wave of torpedoes. So worse than the last ship I was just complaining about? It's 30% chance instead of 50? I guess she's guaranteed to get the sea mines rather than 50-50. She can technically get both. When equipped with an AP gun, plus 10% main gun damage and self-damage taken minus 15%. So equip her with an AP gun. When this ship is afloat, all battle cruisers get minus 10% damage taken. That is super niche. Let me know in the comments what the historical reference to this is. Not good, but interesting. And then she also gets an all-out assault at 10 shots. Something I also forgot to mention is that all the destroyers in this event get their limit break 3 all-out assault cut in half, so they're like 5 instead of 10. Anyway, I think this ship is even worse than Z11, but neither of them are good, as expected. All right, no new equipment, so that's it. That's the ships, all 6 of them. I think both of the URs are pretty good. Both of the SRs are pretty boring. Both of the elites are trash, collection only. I think Fritz Rumey is leagues above everyone else. She is so good. She is a must pickup. She is something you're going to want to spend all your cubes and go all the way in for. She's going to be the best carrier against medium armor enemies. She's going to be very good against light armor enemies. Like, you're going to put her in a lot of those fleets as well. She's also going to have a lot of versatility outside of her main best in slot roles. The guns that she has are going to give her the ability to flex into different niches that you need to hit. So she'll be able to clear a ton of content for you. Also, it's just cool. She's a cool ship in terms of her kit. So I'm very excited about that. I don't really have much bad things to say about her. I would like to have the 9th plane, but boo-hoo, she's going to be good without it. And the detection gauge thing is weird, but we like it. I mean, it's going to allow her to hide again, which gives her the damage buff. It also, obviously allows her to hide from targeting, so it's fine. Most of the bosses she's going to be used in, you're not really going to trigger it very much, but who cares? It's there if you need it. Great ship. I think the really interesting one is going to be Z52. She's kind of like a Swiss Army knife. She has so many different skills. It's basically a Yu-Gi-Oh card. She has all the different things. Like, let's go through them. She buffs enemy damage taken. She gets a special anti-air ghost gun. She gets a cross-fleet barrage. She reduces your flagship's damage taken. She has a self-heal. She has a slash barrage that can clear torpedoes. She has a fleet heal. And of course, she has a bunch of self-stat boosts. Just so many things going on. They basically all trigger off the Mark of the Thundering Fire trigger. So you're going to put a fast gun on her. Of course, her limit break 3 gives her an all-out assault that makes it even easier to trigger those. She has so many things that focus on firing fast. And man, if you have the sound on when you use her, she is going to have a ton of annoying triggers. The non-rainbow rarity ships in this event are pretty forgettable, sadly, but that's okay. We have 2 ships that are good and definitely something you want to pick up. So anyway, good luck on your polls. I will be streaming this event this weekend, and I hope to see you guys there. You can see how my polls go and let me know how yours went this week. Thank you guys for watching. Good luck, and I'll see you guys next time.